if you don't bring it every game, or if you make mistakes, or if you miss free throws, or if you do things, every team is so even. That's going to be the difference in winning and losing. And it was a little bit of the Iowa game, against Illinois. It was that way there. It's going to be that way probably for the rest of the year.
You mentioned getting a little better offensively and how that'll help you overall. When you watch things, where is the most room for improvement there? What would you like to see?
Well, number one, I don't think we can turn the ball over. I mean, we're back up. We've had games of 13, 14 twice. And, when we're down at 9 and 10, that makes us a lot better. So that would be one. I think getting our running game going is another one. And then trying to incorporate, Malik in, and we're trying to play him at two positions. And it's been a little more challenging than I thought it would be, even though it's a positive for us. It's just more challenging. And, right now Jaden has been playing pretty consistent, and I think Tyson's been playing real consistent, and when AJ's good, just like anybody else, he can be really good, and he's very necessary, and yet, I think as it goes, quarterbacks and coaches get blamed for everything, so maybe AJ and I are on the same page. We're going to have to right the ship, and we're actually trying to meet more often to do that. So, I do think we missed some good shots in the last game. I thought Joey missed some great shots. Malik goes 1 for 9 or 1 for 10, and I thought he had some pretty good looks. Our defense has been pretty good. Our offense has not been as good, and I think some of that is shuffling people around, but some of it is the things we're really good at. We got to get back to, and that's our fast break and then making shots. I mean, we're making shots early in the year. We're not making shots right now.
We've talked a lot about when you get to this part of the year and you have first time prep for a team, but what's the difficulty and challenge in facing a coach for the first time when you don't necessarily have the muscle memory with it?
Yeah. Well, I think it is harder on the coaches, and I think it's harder on the players. But, we played Seton Hall a couple of years ago. I've known Kevin for a long time. Very impressed with the job. I mean, he's always got a pretty tough team, very good defensive team. And, he's kind of taken that with him to Maryland, and he's kind of put together a couple of players. He took a transfer with him from Seton Hall, and I think done a good job with the players that were there. But those players are now all seniors, and so that makes a difference too. But it is more challenging. We had an extra day this week, so that made it somewhat human. That we got back Saturday, got to do some work Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday. So we don't get an extra day, but we got an extra little bit of time. And but after we had 4 days for the last game, I think we're through that period where it was just trying to prepare. We have gotten a chance to work on our offense a little bit more, and you can say, well, it didn't show in the Rutgers game. I mean, Rutgers is the best defensive team in the league, and as we're one of the top 2 or 3 defensive teams in the league. So I told you it was going to be a rock fight. It was a rock fight. They made free throws at the end, and we didn't, and that was the difference in the game.
I want to go back to something you said a couple minutes ago about Malik and how it's been maybe a little tougher for him playing 2 different positions. What exactly is tough about that?
Well, he was playing the 3 the whole year, and now because Joey's played so many minutes, and also since I'm trying to bring Malik back in somewhat, where it isn't all on him to run in that. He's playing the 4, he's playing the 3. You got out of bounds plays that have changed since there's just a lot of things that have been different. And what's tough is anytime you play 2 positions, it's tough. I think he's smart enough to do that, but it's not an easy task, especially when one's kind of inside and one's kind of outside. But he's going to get better at it. I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is, as I told you, I think his conditioning will come back, and I think he is in good enough shape now, just like Jaden was. You see, the last 3 weeks, Jaden has really been good. Now it's the skill things that got to come back, And Malik had a few more turnovers than normal for him. And I think part of that is because you think you can zig and you can't zig, you know, and all the things that just takes a little time. So when I say difficult, I don't mean it in a bad way, I just mean it in a factual way.
Anything else, Coach?
I know we talked a lot about with things with Marty, but one of the things that you kind of seen is just the catching of the ball. You know, there've been a couple guys over the years that have had that, but how do you know, is that something that's just focus, or is it just learn and
Well,
reps?
you know, in all honesty, that was a problem for Monty early in his career, as you know. And then, I mean, throughout the first half of the season, he did not have that problem. And I think like everything else, when you're pressing yourself, and he's been pressing, I wouldn't say he has great hands, but I thought they were much improved. And, you know, first play of the game and the one late in the game, I mean, those are plays that he was making against Kentucky and Gonzaga, and those, you know, it doesn't take many baskets or many free throws to change the games when it's a 1 and 2 point game in the last 3-4 minutes. So it's not a lack of effort, and it's not a lack of focus. I think it's a lack of maybe some confidence in his part, or frustration that, you know, one thing about Marty, he knows he's not playing as good as he can play, and yet he's had some incredibly tough assignments. I mean, you're talking maybe 2 All-Americans in Trace Jackson and of course Edie, and you know, that can be demoralizing for you, to be very honest about it. And I think so. We talked to Monty about that. I think you'll see him getting better again. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, going on a little bit more about Malik Hall, not only with the transition he's had to make coming back. What about fitting him in as a puzzle piece and other players? They played with him in the past, of course, but at this point in the season, is there also an obstacle getting him reacclimated and fitting back in again, even though he's such a veteran?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I mean, like I said, he missed 9-10 weeks. And that means he missed that time in practice. He's still, I mean, he's practicing just about every day now. One day we kept him out, and when you're trying to get your team back together, because we went those 6 games in a row with really no practice time, then you got to do that, and we need him there every day, and it's not his fault. It's what we have to do to make sure that he stays healthy. But I am convinced now that the health part of him is as good as it's going to be, and the conditioning is pretty damn good. So now it's just the last stage, which we went through with Jaden, and that's why I think this team can still make a big run. I really do. I think we've shown, other than Purdue, the outlier, every game, you know, we've been in down the stretch. You know, Indiana, Illinois, a little earlier in the second half for Indiana, Illinois. You know, Purdue at home. You can say, well, you're losing them all. Well, there were some reasons why we lost some of those, and I think some of them was the fatigue factor and the number of players, and I think some of it was some maybe bad decisions on my part or our part. You know, that's what we got to look at. And I will say this, since I don't follow the social media, but you guys do. Quarterbacks and coaches are always the ones that are going to get blamed for everything, and coaches have to deal with it. When I tell you what I think AJ's got to do a better job of, I see him getting attacked a little bit more, according to my staff. I just want to say that there's a reason he plays a lot of minutes, and there's a reason he's had to play a lot of minutes, because he's good enough to do it. Do I think that sometimes, you know, tries to do too much? Well, usually that happens when other people aren't doing enough. So, as I tell him, I was going to get blamed if you're the quarterback or the coach. And yet, you know, I think the number of good shots we had early in that Rutgers game, we had enough good shots to be up 10 instead of up 6 at halftime. And those make big differences in games too. So when you lose, everybody joins in. When you win, everybody should join in, and that's where we're at.
Kind of going off of that a little bit, everybody knows point guard position is really, you like to say, an extension of you on the floor. But when you meet with AJ, this is nothing new that you've been meeting with him, take away from the Rutgers game specifically, maybe from a turnover standpoint, or just maybe trying to slow the game down a little bit?
Well, in all honesty, I'm trying to speed the game up a little bit. That's one of the things that I think he was really good at early in the year, and that as we wore down and tried to run, then we got pressed some in that game, and so we didn't get to run like we would. But in the half court, I think just maybe knowing where people are, and that's where like him and Tyson have a feel. Now him and AJ are getting a feel. Him and Joey have a feel, and that's where I say, then you bring in Malik, and we're trying to play Malik at a different position. Sometimes we're trying to play Joey if we want to go small ball a little bit. They're all things you got to work on. But AJ has improved his free throw shooting enormously. That's really helped us. But I think sometimes thinks he needs to do more than he really needs to do. He needs to run our team. He needs to get our break going. He needs to be just a stalwart defensive player. And on that pick and roll, he's been pretty effective at times. We start out the game, we have a lob, and maybe he threw it a little low. Maybe like you say, Monty doesn't catch the ball. Those are dunks, and dunks create excitement, number one. They give you 2 more points when the game's in the 50s, which, as much as I complain about it, you look around the league again, or you look around the country, and there's points have been down. I saw Kansas go to a 46-43 game. We played them. They were an unbelievable offensive team too. And so these little things that happen within, and I think that frustrates AJ sometimes too. But make no mistake about it, he's improved a lot. I'm always on my point guards to be better, because those are the guys that do lead your team. And I think the leadership thing, sometimes you put pressure on somebody to do that really can't do it. And so we're working through all that, but this team has still been good enough to play with anybody in this league, including Purdue, even though I think they're head and shoulders better than everybody else. And we just got to regain that here down the stretch.
Kind of with AJ, more in a whole, the ball movement in particular with the assists, and it's not just AJ, obviously. The other guys are good passers, but you've seen it at a high level, and it's kind of dipped a little bit. I mean, how do you kind of get that going? Is that straight AJ?
No, that's not straight AJ. That's everybody. I mean, the ball movement is something that I've been very disappointed about and talked about it. And it's trusting each other. But you bring Jaden back in too. You didn't get the practice with the guys you got, so that's when you have those kind of problems. And there's not a lot of continuity to it. But now's the time we get more practice again. Now's the time that we've got to do that. I mean, we can do it because it has been there before. Our break has been there before. Our defense has been pretty solid. If you told me going in that game we'd out-rebound them by 10, I say we win, because that was a big problem. I didn't think we turned the ball over like we did, and I didn't think we missed some of the shots we did. But they missed a lot of shots too. It wasn't like they shot the lights out of the ball. So everybody they just made a lot more free throws. And so I don't know. Ball movement is something that point guard doesn't get blamed for. He initiates it, but there's 4 other guys that are still moving the ball too.
That's when this team is at its best.
Yeah, it is. It's at its best when we're running, which a lot of teams are, and when the ball's moving. And I'll be honest with you, that was the whole point of yesterday's practice. We almost took the dribble out of it. You just got to move the ball. And but you run into some teams too, like a Purdue or like a Illinois, that shacks everything, just puts their big guy underneath the basket. And then what you do is you go into more ball screen stuff because of that, because those are open areas, but that doesn't always make your ball movement better. Right?
You're at 23 games now. I don't know where you are with your team. If you're disappointed, perplexed, getting everything you can out of them, but you got 8 games left, what would you like to see down this stretch run?
I'd like to see, yeah. Well, I keep looking at it like I knew, like I said, this would be a rock fight that we just went to, and we did compete, so I'm cool with that, you know. I thought we had 2 games at home we coulda, shoulda won. So would I be 2 games off? The Notre Dame one, I don't include that game. I shouldn't even include Northwestern, because that was on that treacherous 2 trips to California excuse, reality, whatever you wanna call it. So, do I wish we were better? I think in this league right now, we're not right where I want it to be, but we're not like a team that is 9-14. And then the schedule, you know, makes a difference too. It's not only when you play somebody, but who you play in a row. You know, sometimes you get some home games, sometimes you get some road games in a row. Sometimes you got the toughest games on the road. I mean, we played Purdue twice in a 3-week period, you know, or 2.5-week period, and that makes things look differently too. And so I'm not, I'm frustrated with the fact that I don't like when nobody likes turnovers, and that has reared its ugly head a little bit again with us. But part of the reason for turnovers that I think we, you know, is we're trying to incorporate new people back in, and so when AJ penetrates, maybe he doesn't have the same feel where somebody is. You know, it's like when you talk about quarterbacks and receivers. So as you change things up, I mean, it's been an interesting year for that. Not very many times have we had 2 major players injured for more than 10 weeks. And when you do that, and then they come back, sometimes they're injured for the whole year, you learn to play that way. I think that's hurt us a little bit too, but I don't think we're way off from where we'd be. I mean, I don't think anybody thought we were gonna go undefeated, or that we were picked to win the league, or even in the top 4, to be honest with you. But I did think, and I still do think, we got a good team. We've been pretty connected. We've been very good defensively most of the year. That has taken a little hit in a couple games too. But for the most part, pretty connected defensively. We've rebounded better than I thought, and yet nowhere near where Michigan State usually is. But I think we're second or third in the league, I think. And nobody's going to catch Purdue on that as far as the rebounding. It's been our offensive woes, and you know, some guys just haven't shot the ball as well. And if they start shooting the ball well again, and we get a running game going, I think we can put a string of games together. I really do.
Tom, I don't know how far back you guys scouts go, obviously, but I'm just wondering what you've noticed from Maryland this last couple of weeks versus maybe who they were in November, December. I don't know if you got it.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, they're on a hot streak right now, but some of it is who they played, some of the number of home games. They've only won one road game in the Big Ten, and that was at Minnesota. That was more depleted than any team in the league. But I think that he's done a great job, and what starts to happen is that group now that has played together, you know, getting Jameer Young in there, and he's more comfortable. The other guys have been around for the most part, and Scott and Hart have been very good players for a long time, and so is their center. So they're like any team that, you know, new coach, new guys, they're getting better as they go right now, and yet I think schedule has something to do with that. You know, they played some difficult games early, and maybe we're on the road a little bit more early. Now they've had some home games, and now they come out and win a road game. So it's a combination of things, but they're definitely a better team now than they were a month and a half ago, for sure.
Now that we're deep into this season, you've got, I think, 3 guys averaging over 30 Jadens now since January, been around that number. How do you like it as a coach? I mean, how do you?
What was the first part that you have 3 guys that what?
Averaging over 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
But it's different than what you normally.
Yeah. I had no choice, guys. I mean, I had no choice. I mean, you know, you see a body back and you think, I mean, people see a body back. I'm not accusing you. And you think, you don't know that in practice I have to keep a guy out, I have to do this, I have to do that. I don't want to play Joey Hauser 32 minutes a game. Probably the one guy that can play in the 30s is Tyson Walker. You know, I think Malik could have back in the day, but that isn't gonna happen now. So, you know, 8-man rotations, if you look at it, everybody talks about you need more depth. You do need more depth, you have injuries. But there's very few teams playing more than 8 guys, 7 guys, I mean, that's what they're playing. Most teams, that's what they're playing right now. So, that's not really a problem. What's the problem is whether those guys are healthy and ready to go, and then what happened to the guys that you had to play 36 minutes a game for that stretch when the 2 guys were out. That might have some effect on some guys too, but we're not, you know, answering Fred's question. If anybody thought we were gonna be a lot different than we are, you know, I was happy the way we competed out there. I think we could have won that game. I really do. I think they're a team that's really a good team too. So no, I don't feel like we're a lost cause or something. I think we're a good team that needs to play good and can have these little stretches in these games. You know, in Indiana, you know, we're 5 up. At Illinois, we're 9 up, and then you have these stretches. And maybe some of that was fatigue back then, and now we got to get it together. I mean, this last one, there was a couple turnovers and free throw. I mean, Joey Hauser was shooting 89% going in there. He makes the 2 free throws, we're up 3. Marty makes them, we're up 5. Big difference, you know. And then you can do different things offensive. I mean, so we missed the free throw, they come down, and McConnell, who was 2 for 16 from the 3, hits a 3. I mean, that's basketball. That's the difference in basketball, maybe even football, you know. Those 3 points or the free throws or fouls, penalties can make a difference, but usually guys play the same, they're in the game. Fouls sometimes don't, so. But don't think that we're desolate down and out, because we're not. What's that?
Just gonna say that.
Just to change subjects, I don't wanna infringe on your private conversations with Susie, but a lot of people around town are concerned about her. Can you share your level of concern right now?
Yeah, you know, I've talked to her 3 times, and she seems to be doing a lot better. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, there hasn't been anything that glaringly showed in any of the examinations she's had that I know of. And I guess that's the good news, but it's only concerning because you like to say, well, you got this issue and you got to do this, this, and this. But then again, sometimes you'd like to have no issues, and maybe, you know, for whatever reasons, you know, I'm sure stress can be some of it, but I don't think that. When I talk to her, she sounds pretty good. So I didn't talk to her after I tried to call her last night, didn't talk to her after that game, but I imagine that's hard too, sitting home. But I think she's doing pretty good. But I don't have a lot of answers. I just know that when I talk to her, she's doing pretty good. All right.
Anything else, guys?
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
I'm sure he knows him.
I know you know him. Did you know that Dean Howe passed away? 82 years old, that's what Tim reported today, right? That's correct?
That's true. Yeah, the obit was out.
Yeah,
Was
over
it?
the weekend, yeah.
He was.
Over the weekend. Did you know that?
I know Dean Hall really well back in the day, but I didn't know that he passed away.
Over the
No.
weekend. So he long time columnist, covered the national championship years.
Oh, yeah.
Your thoughts on that, Flint?
Well, he was a great guy, you know, and a Flintstone in his own right up there, and that saddens me to hear that. But I don't know if he had been sick. I haven't talked to Dean probably in 5 years, to be honest with you, but used to a lot.
He's been ill.
He's been ill. Well, it's tough, boy. There's, you know what it makes me feel like? It's good to be a healthy basketball coach, you know, win or lose. It's good to be healthy and on this side of the grass, as they say, and I am saddened to hear that. I know, I think Mateen and I think Cedric are coming to the game tomorrow. I'm sure Mateen was, he was really good to those guys back in the day, so. Yeah, count your lucky stars. Take care of yourself. Stay healthy.